Rolling. Hey guys, what's up? This is AJ Doug here, hitting you with another live stream here on my channel. And as the live stream suggests, I am with a new release of Call of Duty, the campaign, and I will be going over that. Already is that I got but the older ones that came off the original Xbox. I got, what was it, Hitman Contracts, and then one that I used to play, Assassin. And I will eventually be getting myself this one called Hitman. What's it called? Hitman Blood Money. That one, yeah, and Absolution. So I will be getting those as well. How to run, per se, you know, off the current computer I have. I don't think I'll be able to do that. So what I'm going to be doing, right, is I'm going to be, I've been looking into getting a brand new computer. So the computer I have, it's so old, you guys. When I say it's so old, it's, the core processor it's using is the same as a Pentium, which is pretty much crappier than an i5, but barely the i5 standard, if that. So I'm going to be getting a brand new one and financing a brand new computer. And with that, I will actually be live streaming to YouTube through my Xbox. And I will be keeping the details out for, you know, the PS5 and the Xbox, what's it called? Xbox Series X. Yeah, that's the one. So obviously, for those of you who don't know, I game on both. I love both of them. You know, I'm a gamer in general. You know, most people are like, oh, I'm Team Xbox, I'm Team PlayStation. Oh, you know, this, all that. And, you know, they talk shit about each other, but it's like, gaming's gaming, you know? You gotta do what you gotta do. You know, and I don't get to game that much anymore, ever since having this thing called a job. That's fun. Actually, today was my day off. So, but, here's the thing, guys. I'm trying to, full-time job. You know, because here's the thing. I'm a dishwasher, as I've mentioned before. I make good money. I actually just recently got a 50-cent raise, which is not bad at all. Especially for my first raise for my first job. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want to spend the rest of my life behind a dish pit. Coming in at like 9 o'clock in the morning, having to turn around the next day and do the same thing over and over again, or having to work the night shift. Now, do I enjoy going there? I enjoy talking to people? Sure. I enjoy working there. At least a good percentage of the time. But I don't do that anymore. Like, here's what I want. If you can, try to get your friends to follow, so it's why I don't post as many videos or live streams as I used to. As you know, I used to post a shit ton before I got a job. But thing is, I kind of have income I have to pay. I have to pay $400 a month on rent. I do get $400 that I can spend on myself, but that's after I, what's it called? That's after I've worked, what, about maybe 70 or so hours? 70, 80, something like that. I work full time, basically. And so with your guys' help, I'm hoping that I can afford to kind of get out of that lifestyle. Not for the sake of vanity, not the sake of, you know, money. I do need money. But more importantly, I want to be here so that way I can do more videos, get the best equipment that I need so I can show you stuff like on the Xbox, So core computers, you know, the little chips that sit under a heatsink, and CPU, if you will, such as i3, i5, i7, i9, Ryzen, not AMD, my bad. I was about to say AMD. AMD's a different thing, I think. Hold on. Let me check that out real quick. Because I know about Intel and Ryzen. It says here AMD and Intel, but they're forgetting Ryzen. Ryzen's always a good one. Sorry, I was looking down at my phone when I crashed. But here's the thing. So that chip that I got, I found out, or I haven't gotten it yet, but I was looking into getting an i7 to upgrade the computer I have. You know, if something's broken, cheapest way to fix it typically is the best. You know, I thought I could just cram a simple i7 into my computer, and I found out it's actually old as shit. So, you know, realistically, I wanted to upgrade the RAM and change the processor, so I didn't have to rearrange the entire thing, so I didn't have to take it apart, put it back together. And then I found out I'm just better off leasing, or not leasing, but, you know, paying $30 to $50 a month for a brand new computer. I just pay for one, and the best part is that it boosts my credit even more. Apparently you can do this from Dell. I didn't know this. And that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to finance a new computer. But I found out that the computer I have, so the way the chip works, you set it in this little thing, right? It's a little tray, and it has a little cover that like covers like the outside of it, like in a like the border of it. Has a little pull down mechanism. It's a little pin that you pull down, little pin handle or something like that. They pull down and it locks it in place. Okay, but the way it works is it has these metal prongs on the underside, which also line up with the ones inside that tray, and older ones don't match the newer models. So I found out it's kind of like how, you know, with cars, you know, some of the older parts such as a carburetor and a, you know, fuel injection system, though they're meant to do the same thing, they don't run the same way. So, you know, I found that out, and I was disappointed because I was ready to spend, you know, some good money on a brand new computer. Just be like, you know what, I'm gonna just change this. You know, it's gonna cost me a couple hundred, but you know what, it would have been worth it because I could live stream to you guys a little bit more. And my original game plan was on Monday, since currently my store is closed on Mondays. I was gonna start live streaming and all that, do all my videos for the day on Monday, and have them set so they release every single day of the week. Come back around on Monday, do it all again. So here's the truth though. I have the time to do that plan, but the thing is I never have the energy. Right? That's the issue. As you know, energy is always an issue when it comes to me. I mean, you know, that's just how I am. So, here's what I'd like to ask you guys. I'd like to ask if you could find more friends who could maybe subscribe to me. And I don't say this as an act of desperation. I want more people to follow me, not because I care about being famous. That's not it at all. I'm not vain like that, or at least want to be. Granted, it'd be nice to take a trip to Alaska one of these days, but you know what? I could live without that, you know? As long as I didn't have to go do a 9 to 5 job, which realistically it's actually a 9 to 4 job, sometimes 4 to 9, or even 4 to 10, but you get the idea. And you know, honestly, I don't like doing that anymore, you know. At first when I started, I loved it because it was such an easy job. I mean, dishwashing, you can't get more simple than that. But over time, it was a great job. It still has its value, don't get me wrong. And I do intend on eating there if I ever do manage to fall into some kind of windfall. I ain't got no personal issues against them. You know, it's still a great place to eat. They got some of the best seafood, at least where I'm at. They got this thing called a crab pretzel, let me tell you. Basically, they take this in-house made crab dip, put it on a pretzel, sprinkle some of the special cheese on it, and then boom, put it in what's known as a boiler, or broiler, I mean, or salamander, if you will. Telling you, it's delicious. Soft pretzel too. It's not a hard one. It's like a really nice, big, soft one. So, you know, like, I do intend to go back there. I do intend to eat. But the thing is, I don't want to work there anymore. And it's not like, if I can, I'd rather make a living on YouTube. Not because, you know, I want that carefree lifestyle. I mean, I do, but that's not the only reason. So number one, I want to be able to afford and finance my own house. Right, that's obviously number one. Is the big one. Right, number two, finance a car. You know, I want to build my own life up. I don't want to sit behind that dish pit while everyone else, you know, goes out and enjoys drinking, has partying, you know, goes out partying, they have fun, while I'm sitting here stuck in the dirt, just working day in and day out, you know. Never getting to do what I want, but rather having to look after everyone else. Because that's what I do, you know. Realistically, that's what I do. I look after everyone else. You know, it's not something that's like commonly spoken for, but you know, the more subscribers you get, the more I'm going to be trying to post on YouTube. I might even start doing some vlogging. You know, I'm thinking about doing a face reveal at some point, because I know, you know, that's important as well. And once I reach a certain, what's it called, subscriber count, I'm gonna do a certain, you know, do a face reveal. I'm also gonna be trying to teach you guys how to build a computer, because everyone makes it all complex and all that shit nowadays. I'm gonna teach you guys how to build a computer, because let me tell you something, little trick. For those of you who are of the younger range, don't buy a computer pre-built. Here's why. I spent $125 on my computer, the current model I have. It's a business model computer. Now, what that means is they mass-produced it, but it has just enough efficiency to run Office stuff. Like, it can run Windows 10 Pro. It can run, what's it called? It can run YouTube or Netflix, just not efficiently. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't run it efficiently. So, you know, I'm going to be upgrading, obviously. But here's the thing. And, you know, honestly, I think this is the best option for me. What I'm going to be doing, okay? I'm going to buy a new computer, obviously, but I do recommend that you build one. And the reason why I recommend this is because, one, in the long run, it will be cheaper, and number two, you don't want to have to do like me and finance a new one. Now, the only reason why I'm going to finance one is because it's going to build my credit up. And the way house loans work is, in order to get a house loan, I have to have, what, 10-15% of what the house is worth, So, like, say a house is 15,000, which, if it is, you're gonna want to check that out. But if it is, what it means is I have to have $1,500. Pretty sure it's like 10,000 or something like that. But I have to have that ready to go right there and then. You know what I'm saying? And so, in short, you know, you're gonna wanna use that, cause like, let me keep it completely real with you, 100%. You know me, I'm that guy. I keep it real. So, number one is that obviously, you know, building is cheaper. Now, if you know nothing about computers and you're like me, you know, if you're nothing like me and you don't know how to build a computer just from watching a couple of YouTube videos, I get that. There's nothing wrong with that. Personally, the only reason why I'm going with a build model that's already pre-built is because it's cheaper in the long run to buy the perfect model that I'm getting. Now, well, it's not so much cheaper in the long run, if that makes sense. So, to get a standard gaming computer, i7 is the standard go-to that everyone goes with. Ain't shit to get. What the hell? Hold on. Let me just circle back around real quick. Whenever you hear that little beep beep noise and there's no one around, you know what that means. So let's see. There it is. Oh. Well, don't I feel like a dick? Alright, there we go. Problem solved. So, sorry about that. You know, I really did think he was a signal jammer. You know how it is. But, back to what I was saying. Depending on what model computer you're gonna get. See, for me, I'm getting i9. i9s are meant to be high quality. Right? The highest of the high quality. What that means, basically, is that I'm going to be spending $1,000 on a computer. I'm going to pay about so and so much money for, you know, see he understands, you know, because that's actually an issue in GTA. For those of you who have never played GTA and are probably going to play it on PS5, I would recommend playing it on the PS3 first. Now, most people think, oh, it's a ripoff to buy it on the PS5, and I'm just like, then don't buy it on the PS5. Your PS4 disc should, in theory, quote my words correctly, should, in theory, work. So the way Sony has set up... The fuck? Okay. So the way Sony has set up... Hold up. Does a brother got my cargo? Nah, better not. Sorry. You'll notice I whenever I get into these battle goods, I get really hyper focused. Looks like I'm gonna have to blow him up. What fun shall that be? Well, I thought I could shoot out the gunner, but apparently I couldn't. So, back to what I was saying. Yeah. So, the i9 computer that I'm looking at, $1,000. The reason why I'm choosing to not buy it straight out of pocket and rather pay for it monthly, two reasons. One, it will be cheaper for me in the long run. Well, I take it back. Assuming that they don't charge interest, it will be cheaper for me in the long run. I'll pay upwards of 50 or so, and I got a year to pay it back. So all I gotta do is spend $100 a paycheck. You know what I'm saying? I'll have $1,000. And so with that, you know, I have to be very careful. But essentially, what this stuff. Okay, that was weird. But either way. Essentially what I'll be doing is I'll be financing a computer, and it will also boost my credit, because you know that's how it works. You know, you apply to get yourself some of that credit. Saving mojo. About time this thing blew up. Oh, sweet, if I hurry up. Let's go on to Dell's website. So now obviously the first thing someone would suggest is a laptop, because it's portable. Obviously that's a go-to. But another thing someone suggests, or would suggest, is buying a micro tower. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with micro towers, they are, of course, it's a desktop, basically, but in a much smaller case. They crammed it into a smaller case that uses a smaller motherboard, has less expansion. It does the same thing, though. Same concept, does same thing, runs on the same part. Only difference is that you can't expand your PCI ports as much. You know, you can't use as many PCI ports, or if you do, you have to use a limited type of PCI port. For instance, if I wanted to hook up, what's it called? A simple connection right now into my current computer, I can't do HDMI. They probably wonder, why did I buy that kind of computer? Well, see, when I bought it, I was looking at price tag. What I wasn't looking at was efficiency. So, while looking at that, I need to go back to all deals. Desktop deals. So we're gonna check on my space right now. Really, a Pentium processor, and they're still charging? That's sad. So for those of you who are not familiar with what a Pentium processor is, a Pentium processor is a processor that was typically used in things such as Windows XP, or even Windows 7, dare I say. And I do not recommend it. It works, but that's the best I can say about it. It works. I mean, just because something works, you know, doesn't mean it's worth it, you know what I mean? So we're gonna go ahead and buy the final storage. Do we have a light rig? You know what? I'm not here enough to afford a light rig, but I am here enough to buy storage. Now, storage, I don't know. As you can see, obviously, I spent my money very well, because now I will have more money to store stuff. Or not more money, but more storage. So we're actually going to go down to the 4th level of my garage. Or maybe I want to go to my 2nd one. I'm not too sure which one it is. But what I do know is that I will be hitting you guys up with more and more content. So first off, as you can see, this is my fancy cars, but I'm missing a couple. I know I'm missing the Entity. I sold that. I don't remember why I did. Let me scroll through Legendary, and I'll tell you what it was. Wasn't the Elegy. It was a cheaper car, I reckon. The Vodka, that's what it was. The Vodka, I remember. Okay, see? Okay, it was the Vodka and the Elegy, not the Elegy, the other one. So anyway, we're gonna come down here. Well, actually, we're gonna go up 2 floors, I mean. And here we are. These are our classic cars. Now, I do have one. This one. This is a very special one. This one right here. I like it. It's got that nice sound to it. See? But if you really want style. Wait, what's this one? This is the Casco, and that's the Blackfin. Okay. This is the one Lucifer drives in the TV show. Something like this. Either that or he drives a roofless Casco. I'm not too sure. Yeah, this actually looks a lot like what Lucifer drives. Wow. So, we're going to be driving around a bit, you know, just kind of chilling. But, you know, like I said, You guys can help with the likes and the subscribes, get that watch time up. I will be posting more videos. What I'm going to be doing is, as of right now, I've just got some videos that I'm going to be doing. What my game plan is to go back in and do video game walkthroughs. Because you know me, that's what I'm notorious for. But once I get enough money to fund it, I'm actually going to start spending money building a PC model. I'm going to get a workshop and I'm going to do a PC model. I'm going to try and build one on camera for you guys. We're going to get it booted up, get it running Windows 10 Pro, and then what I'm going to do is, well, I'm going to give it to a friend. Maybe. It depends on whether or not I actually need it or not. Assuming I haven't bought one. My game plan right now is to buy one off of Dell. I have to go back onto my computer, which, by the way, for those of you who are looking for computers, there's this thing called a display port. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're going to probably say something along the lines of, obviously, VGA, HDMI, and I will tell you, no, that's not what I mean. When I say display port, a display port is actually a type of cable. Most people don't know this, but DisplayPort is far superior to HDMI. You can put HDMI and have it run 4K, but DisplayPorts do such a better job at that, you know what I mean? It's just so much easier with a DisplayPort. So, here's what we're gonna do. Or here's what I recommend, I actually recommend that you go out and get yourself a DisplayPort. Okay? DisplayPort. Just get yourself one, and then find a computer that actually has an active DisplayPort. That is assuming, of course, you're going looking for a computer. The reason why is because you'll get better graphics. Me currently, even on my old computer that's like a dinosaur, I'm still using HD graphics because I got me a DisplayPort and hooked it up to my TV. Which, by the way, brings me to another thing I have found. This thing called the Anki Vector Robot. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the Anki Vector Robot, the Anki Vector Robot is this cute little desk pet that's designed to, you know, be a companion, if you will. From what I've heard, it has 15 minutes of battery life, so obviously that's a downside. But it has sensors on its back so it can feel you petting him. It can actually respond to your name. Think basically R2-D2, but you can play blackjack on its screen. That's right, you can play blackjack on its screen. You can also, and I'm not making this up, you can actually hook it up to Alexa, and it be an Alexa-capable robot. So you can tell Vector to turn your lights on and off. Now, me personally, I am a Google man. You know, I have Google Home, and I did consider getting rid of my Google Home for an Alexa because, you know, Google isn't Vector capable. But then I thought, well, as cool as this robot is, I don't really have the room nor any use of it. I constantly have animals in and out of my bedroom, you know, specifically one of my cats. I don't really need you know, it would just be a glorified, you know, cat in a sense. Now it can talk, it can do all sorts of things, but at the end of the day, I decided it wasn't really worth it. Because although I do get some cool benefits out of it, with my Google Home, I get a benefit that Alexa cannot provide. At least from what I understand. I could be wrong about this, but from what I understand, Alexa only works with the Echo. You know what I'm saying? Like the little hub. Whereas with my Google Home, I don't need to be near my Google Home system to use voice commands. Since I have Google Assistant built into my phone, I can actually control my devices from anywhere in the world. Such as, if I decide that I want, I don't know, like, if I want to turn my lights off, my Xbox off, say, at the airport, and I realize I've forgotten to turn my Xbox off. As long as I got Wi-Fi, I should be able to do it. No problem. Not that it would matter, because my Xbox does have an auto turn-off function anyways, as most consoles do. But, you know, it wouldn't be that big of an issue. Or if, say for instance, I don't want to turn my fan off, which by the way, for those of you who are not familiar with this thing called a tower fan, I'm sure some of you are, you know, there's this thing called a tower fan. Now most people are used to boxes, little tiny little desk fans. Spent, you know, a good month or two searching for one. The reason why is because I have a Google Switch, or not a Google Switch, I have a Google, I got one of those plugs, smart plugs, where you leave the device on and then you use Google to turn the device on and off, and it acts as a pass-through. So I had one of those, and the problem is it doesn't work with digital fans. So I spent obviously a month or two, I should say, searching for one. I couldn't find one. I said fuck it and picked one up at the local Walmart. And I gotta say, this fan has been doing really well. It's this brand called Honeywell. I do recommend you check them out. By the way, none of the products I've mentioned in this video are sponsored. These are just products I recommend, you know, kind of give you, you know, something to put on that wish list, because even though I know it's in July, it's a good time to start, you know, prepping for gifts. But I gotta say, I love the fan. It's a lot cooler than that old tower fan I used, and I still love my tower fans. Don't get me wrong, but the problem is you can't Google enable. Like, they do have a couple of them that I guess you kind of could. One of them could work with Google Home or Alexa, but you have to like really search for your stuff. It's just not worth the hassle. So instead, smart plugs. Now, another thing, another product I just remembered, and I think you're gonna like this one. So I was on the web today, and if you're an Xbox fan, there's this thing called the Nyko Data Bank. Now there's two of them. You have one that pops on the side, right? You put a 2.5 hard drive in, and you know, it gives you also two 3.0, you know, not hard drives, but USBs. Well, there's another one that pops on the side, and what it does is it charges your wireless batteries. And I thought this is a cool feature. The only downside to it is that I know that if I ever would have slapped something on the side, I would want the extra data storage, not to charge my batteries. But I was thinking, I'm not everyone, I can't make a vote for everyone, and I figured this is worth mentioning as well. So, you know, for those of you who are Xbox gamers as well, you know, because I game on both, I won't lie, I do recommend checking that out as well. What else? Oh, and in other news, okay, for those of you who are not familiar with what's happening, so there's apparently going to be a new feature on the PS5 called PlayStation Activities. I'm not too sure what it's supposed to do, because I seem to have forgotten a little bit. Something to do with backwards compatibility, if I'm not mistaken. However, you know, for those of you who are conflicted on what is supposed to happen in terms of backwards compatibility, basically what's going to happen is this. So PS5 will support PS4 disc. Okay, so there's this thing called architecture. Now, most of you think buildings when you hear that, but realistically what it means is the way the console is designed. Okay, so for the PS3, the PS1 and the PS3 share similar architecture, hence why you can play PlayStation 1 games on the PS3. Most people don't know this, but can. Now, what happens when you get the original PS3 that was at launch, the 60GB version, you can actually play PS2 games. And most people think, well, why is that? Was it a programming thing? And why, if so, why did it cost $200-300 more? Well, the answer's not so simple as programming. It's actually closer to hardware. They had to implement extra hardware. You know, you have things such as compact flash, which I'm not too familiar with. That technology is a little bit older than I am, so I couldn't tell you. but we had things such as memory card slots and all sorts of things. And if you're like me and you like PlayStation, Xbox, and you want to play the full catalog, but you don't want to play on like 5 different consoles, just get a PS3 60GB version. Personally, I think Sony should re-release them into the world. You know, ooh, new followers. That's cool. Personally, I think that it's called that we should re-release the original PS3s into the world again, because they were, although expensive, they're much worth it because you can play over half of the PlayStation catalog. Right. Now with the Xbox One, obviously you have games from the 360 that you could never get. But what about those games you can't play? Well, my recommendation is you get an original Xbox. You can pick one up from $100 to $200, right? It does unfortunately require Ethernet if you're going to play online, but the good news is you really don't need to play online because they've shut off the service. Now, if you want to go through that trouble playing with online players, you can, of course, use this thing called tunneling software, but at the end of the day, if you're like me and you like the story modes, you like the games, you're all about the thrill of the, you know, story, just get yourself an Xbox One, because games such as like Hitman and whatnot, games that you can only play on, actually now that I think about it, you wouldn't even need an Xbox original. You would just need a PS3 to play a majority of the catalog. So with the Xbox One, obviously we have backwards compatibility. That is something that is very common, right? Most people are yo, what's good, Tyler? So with the Xbox One, most people know that it's famous for its backwards compatibility, but thing is, people don't know is that PlayStation's been doing it for quite a while too. In fact, you know, when the 360 got released, obviously one of its features was it could do backwards compatibility, but it had its limitations. Its limitation being you had to have an external hard drive, and you had to, what's it called? You had to download 2 separate discs, which, by the way, was annoying. My brother had a 360 and he hated that shit too, having to download 2 separate discs. So, you know, honestly, it's just not worth it. If you're gonna, now I think about it, if you really want to play every game in the modern era that you can, just get yourself, what's it called, the PlayStation 3 system, and then have a PS3, PS5, and an Xbox One or Series X. Because from what I hear, every game that you get on your Xbox One will transfer over to the Series X. It's going to be a weird form of backwards compatibility, and it'll work very similar to the way GTA could transfer, what's it called, their characters. You could transfer your characters in GTA, and that's how that's how Microsoft is going to be doing your games. So any games you purchase on the One will transfer to the Series X. At least that's what they claim. So I don't know how true that's going to be, but we'll see. We'll see. In other news, so naturally, with the release of these new consoles coming up, everyone's thinking, what new games are going to be on there? And obviously, GTA is a good one. It's been around since 2013. For me, it's been around since I was 13 years old. As you can see, I'm still playing it right now. The only reason why I hop on GTA anymore is because, you know, it's relaxing to me to drive around. As I've mentioned once or twice, I do have ADHD, and so my mind works better, I think better when I'm multitasking. You know, I can relax a little bit, I can, you know what I mean, it's just easier for me to multitask than it is to do one simple thing, you know. So, as you can see, I'm driving around here, and you know, this is okay, I guess, but it's gotten so boring. Because granted, I could collect all the cars I want using Bogdan and all that, and that's another thing people are worried about is going to be patched in the new up and coming console, in the PS5 or the Series X. I'm here to put those worries to rest. So number one, what do we know about the Bogdan problem? Well, number one, it's a pretty good glitch. I don't like the fact that, you know, it enables people to buy shit that they want like that. But when you need that extra 1 mil, it's a good video. Not a video. It's a good way of getting that quick cash fast. But I've found over the years that I've become less appreciative of my stuff when I do use the Bogdan glitch. So that is the downside. Now here's the cool bit. Here is the cool bit here though. So with the new GTA 5 on the horizon, everyone's expecting it's going to be pretty much the same. But need I remind you that when they said we're not doing any more updates on the PS3, and let's be honest, we were all pretty pissed. You'd be lying to yourself if you said you weren't, because I know I was. But what happened was that, you know, we found out right away that on the PS4 we started getting new updates. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't there at the beginning of the PS4 cycle, and I've gotten this PS4 about 2-3 years ago, right? And a little advice for those of you who are looking into a PS4: either A, get the very original model, maybe not launch day, but get yourself the fat PlayStation 4. Whenever you go to replace a hard drive in Slim, sometimes it corrupts the hard drive over time. I know that's the case with my brother's PlayStation, so I just recommend go ahead and getting a Pro or a regular. It'll just save you a lot of time, a lot of money. Now, as for what's it called? As for the PS5, I am curious to see how they're gonna do replacement of hard drive. So, for those of you who are not familiar with how the PS4 works, you slide a little piece off, you take a screw, you unscrew it, and then you take this new hard drive, you put it in the system, and then what you do is you upload its brand new operating system using a stick that you get from a website off PlayStation. Right? Very easy, very simple. A noob could do it. Someone with the brain of a child could do it. And when I say that, I mean like we're talking like a 10-year-old easily, if not younger. Like, it's really easy to do. So, my curiosity has got me piqued. Are they going to pull an Xbox and make it so you have to either buy adapters or, you know, data banks to increase your storage? Or will you be able to pull it out super easy? And speaking of storage, there's this thing called raw data. For those of you who are not familiar, the way a hard drive works, it works the same way as a USB drive in the sense that it holds storage. But if you get a hard disk drive or an HDD, which is the standard stock most consoles use, the newer consoles won't be using this, but most of them do. Here's what happens. They use this thing called a disk, hard disk drive, hence why it's called a HDD. It uses a disk and reads the data off that. Now, devices like USB drives use this thing called flash data. And essentially what that is you take a device and it reads it digitally. It's kind of like the difference between if you have, say if you have, I don't know, like a fan, and you have the digital button. It's like that. That's the basic concept. It's the difference between one or the other. One's digital, one's analog. Now, analog's not to say, see, people confuse this. In technology, analog doesn't necessarily mean it's worse. It just means that it has a different way of doing things that's a little bit more old school. And the HDD is good for, you know, things such as being able to provide a lot more memory, a lot more data. When I say memory, I actually stand corrected. It doesn't provide memory. It provides a greater amount of storage. Now, granted, in order to cope with this, you can always go out and buy an external hard drive, but who wants to do that? Who wants to attach a silly hard drive to their, what's called, their PlayStation or their Xbox? Now, unfortunately for me, since I have the original PS5 500GB version, I did, of course, have to go out and buy one. But the cool bit about it is it's 1 terabyte. It's 1 terabyte, and it would be nothing to replace the new one with. So, here's what I gotta tell you, and I gotta be honest with you about this. So, with the new consoles, right, they're gonna use SSDs, solid state drives, which uses flash data, or flash storage, which means there's no disk that it will be reading off of, which means it will be faster, and theoretically, it's supposed to eliminate loading times, or at the very least, minimize them. It's good either way. Now, here's the problem. While the Xbox One boasts a 1 terabyte raw data storage hard drive, the PlayStation 5 is only boasting a 825 gigabyte raw storage hard drive. Now, for the record, raw storage means before you factor in the formatting of the operating system. And the way that works is like this. So, with, what's it called? With the hard drive I got, the external hard drive I got, basically it doesn't say 1 terabyte when I go to look at storage. It says, like 915 or something like that. Essentially what you're going to want to do if you get a PS5, swap out your SSD for a brand new one. You know, and keep it as a backup if you want my recommendation. Personally, I would recommend Samsung's Evo Collection. Their Evo Collection boasts very high speeds, and on top of that will have more data. You'll get about as much data as you will on an Xbox One. Now, unfortunately, I don't know how it's going to look in terms of replacing your hard drive, because, let's be real here, no one knows what the PS5 truly looks like. I mean, we got a glimpse. We know what the PS5 is going to be able to remove its hard drive. Will there be a little slot like there is with the PS4 Slim? Will there be a giant cover that you take off like with the original PS4? Or will it be like the Xbox One and you just can't take it off? You can't remove it. None of us know. Hopefully we can remove it, because I do have intentions of swapping out the SSD. Now, most people are thinking, well, 825 gigs, even if that is just raw data, is more than enough. And I say to them, that is not true. So over the decades, most gaming consoles, for the longest time, did not require a lot of storage. Back on the original Xbox, you used literally megabytes and gigabytes just to run a game. See, the thing is that the way gaming consoles now run, the way it would work is their data would be stored on the disk. Back in the old days, they would at least. But now they're stored in a database, and essentially the disk unlocks that data. That's all it does. So when you buy the disk, all you're doing is buying access. That's it. So now, people, you know, think, oh, well, I got the newest disc, you know, I got this new game, you know, it's gonna be so cool, but it takes up so much storage. And see, the thing is, discs are just the superior, at least when you're comparing against companies like Nintendo who use cartridges. And don't get me wrong, cartridges are good, there ain't nothing wrong with them, but if you're like me, and like I have a Switch Lite, right? I'm still trying to figure out how to live stream on that too. I'm gonna play some video games up there too if I can. But here's the thing. With the Switch, you have these tiny little packaged cartridges, which by the way, no one wants. You pay $50, $60 to lug around that tiny little thing, and if you lose it, you don't have access to your game. So you're just better off buying it digitally. Now, most people are gonna give me shit for that. You know, be like, the cartridges work just as fine, and they do. But two things. Number one, if you have a little child and you're concerned about them eating that little cartridge, number one, they coat it in this chemical that's supposed to make it like really nasty tasting. And quite frankly, number two, if that is even a concern in the first place, just buy it digitally. Now, the downside of this is you cannot get deals unless you buy, like, for instance, codes and all that, and you have to really search and all that, but, you know, honestly, it just isn't worth it. Just buy them digitally. And if you're worried about memory, and most people are like, oh, woe is me, what am I gonna do? Well, here's the thing. Here is the thing. So, if you're probably worried about memory on the Switch, you can get this thing that I have called the Samsung Evo Micro USB. Okay, did I say USD? It's the Micro SD, I mean. I apologize. It boasts a 256 gigabyte storage space and is very fast and reactive. And on top of that, I bought it originally for my what's it called, my PlayStation Vita, which I never used, by the way. I bought it so I could use it on, so I could like play my game while like I'm like if I'm in the living room and I have to be there, you know, I can play my PlayStation from the little Switch to, not the Switch, the PlayStation Vita. But the problem is that it just don't work. It just wasn't worth it at the end of the day. It was too old. So at the end of the day, most people are thinking, well, what is the best option for memory? Well, like I said, I would recommend the Samsung Evo. It's done well for me. You can hold many games up there. And I mean, with the 256, gigabyte, storage space, you will take some time to run out. Now, unfortunately, excuse me. Unfortunately, I don't know if you'll have space on the home screen, but I mean, I'm sure it'll work itself out, but I would recommend getting all your games digital, at least for the Switch, because you carry that thing around. Who wants to lug a giant carrying case around with all of your games, you know what I'm saying? And if they're all digital, at least what I'm assuming, I could be wrong. So, what I'm assuming is that, what's it called? What I'm assuming about the Switch is that it will in fact boast a what's it called? It will boast an impressive amount of storage, but here's the dealio, okay? Here's the dealio. Just get them all digitally. Just get them digitally, because the carrying cases they got out now, especially the sleeker ones, they just aren't worth having all your, what's it called? They're just not worth having all those games on there. Plus, if you're like me and you're gonna get a Switch regular, you're better off just getting that so you can transfer all your data over to the new Switch. Which, by the way, is what I do intend to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Switch Lite, I'm going to store it, right? And this way, when I have a regular Switch, I can play like on the TV, or I can do whatever. Now, unfortunately, if you are new to buying a Switch and you don't know what to do, like in the sense that you start researching it, let me give you some ground rules. Never buy a gray box Switch. If you're going to, be prepared to charge it a lot more. So, little thing that they did was they changed the processor in the red box version. Not that it increases performance, but it doesn't increase it, but they also changed the battery. Whereas you get almost double what you would have gotten. So about 4 hours from a red box, 2 and some change from the gray box. Now the gray box, unfortunately, costs the same, and as you know, they're scarce in the US, at least in the US, but I'm pretty sure they're scarce other places as well. But here's the thing: don't waste your time buying them. Don't buy a gray box Switch, because it will do the same thing, but it's kind of like how when you bought the Note, or not the Note, yeah, the Note 7, and it exploded in your hand. There was something wrong with the hardware. Well, let me tell you about the gray box Switches. You can buy one. Don't get me wrong, if you intend to keep it on charge a majority of the time, and only play it on 1 or 2 hours at a time, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you plan on taking this thing on the road, save up the money to get a red Switch. Which, by the way, the price tags that they're running at currently are $400 to $600, and you can also buy an online service for the Switch. You know, most people don't know that, but they have something now too. You can now get something for Nintendo. It's like Nintendo Online or something. Basically, it works the same way as PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live. You know, and all that. But check it. So here's the thing: get a red Switch if you're gonna get one, because it will give you more battery life. But on top of that, there's this little web browser extension called Honey, and apparently it's supposed to give you great deals. If you're looking, research, and it will give you, it combs through, what's it called, price tags and all that, and what it does is it tells you, hey, if this is legitimate or not. Basically it says, hey, here's a deal, cheap one, get it, it's cheaper than what you would normally pay, you know, and it applies a bunch of coupons, so, you know, you save yourself some money in the process. Now, let's talk about another thing. So there's this thing called Galaxy Wearables. Now, for those of you who are familiar with a smartwatch and AirPods or Galaxy Buds, or even Pixel Buds, know what I'm talking about. So, Galaxy Buds. I actually just bought my second pair. First pair I bought was refurbished, so I said that's on me. Obviously, I'm not going to blame Samsung for that. Now, what I will say this though, the only reason why I bought the Samsung Galaxy Buds was because I love Samsung. Here's what I don't love though: the fact that if you mess up one earbud, you can't plop a new one in and it resyncs to the case. If you feel like that will be an issue, like if that's going to be an issue, just go ahead and get something like Galaxy Buds or AirPods. Apparently AirPods, you can put a brand new one in the case and it will resync. It'll work the same. Whereas with the Galaxy Buds, you have to go to Samsung support, get them to use a special APK, which is basically a special type of file where they resync a new earbud to that case. And you know, you have to go through so much trouble just to get a new earbud. You're better off just buying a brand new pair. Now, my old pair, which was refurbished, lasted me 4 months, so I don't think that will be an issue. But I will say this: as infuriating as all that process is, you know, having to go through all that process of, oh, I have to resync this earbud and all this and that, I will say this: it is worth it, because they easily, you open the case, it automatically syncs, or if it does take a little time, it never takes a minute. It's rather like a few seconds, if not a little bit more, but never over a minute. In fact, at best, it'll take 30 seconds, and that's if. Now obviously you do have to keep your Bluetooth settings on the entire time, as it does connect using Bluetooth, but cool thing about it is in the Galaxy Wearable app, you can adjust it so when you press and hold that little button on the side, because it has a digital button, you can change the volume, you can have it do all sorts of things. Actually, let me pull up the list real quick. Alright, hold up. So, I'm going to pull up the Galaxy Wearable app for you guys. Galaxy Wearable does have a wide range of products that you can use. So we're going to go to add new device. So you can get obviously things like Galaxy Buds, the Galaxy Watches, the Galaxy Fits, Gear Sport, Gear Fit 2, Gear Iconics, and Gear S3. Now the Gear Iconics, for those of you who are not familiar, basically it's like a Galaxy Bud, but it has a little hole in the top where you can have like a little necklace wrap around, you know, so like if it drops, you know, it does the same thing. And at one point you could get them for half the price of the Galaxy Buds. They do basically the same thing, you know, but now they're about the same price, so you might as well go ahead and get yourself a pair of Galaxy Buds. But enough about that. Where did I put it? Hold on. Let me go ahead and get my Galaxy Buds out real quick, because apparently in order to access this, I have to have them currently out. Now the way this works, it's very simple. If I'm being completely honest, it's quite simple and quite easy. So I take my Galaxy Buds and I pop them open. Now I don't even have to press the connect button 9 times out of 10. But with the touchpad, I click touchpad, so I could do the left side. We'll do quick ambient noises. What that means is that if you're in a job that requires you to be able to hear, you can press this button, and what'll happen is it'll get rid of the noise canceling technology in the sense that you'll still be able to hear. Alright, that's all it will do. Next up, you have ambient sound, volume down, and Spotify. You also have voice command, which is what I prefer to go with because that's Google Assistant. Now on the right side, it does the same thing, but you can also have it select volume up. Now me personally, I like having Google Assistant in both my ears. So but so, you know, obviously, with the Galaxy Buds, sorry, I had to respond to a text. The Galaxy Buds. So first off, what do we know about them other than that they're wireless earbuds? Well, here's what we know. Number one, the case itself will charge your earbuds, and when you close the case, your earbuds disconnect from your phone. That's actually a really cool feature I love about the Galaxy Buds, especially considering the fact that it's a small portable device that allows you to have earbuds on the go. So when you open the case, it connects to your phone. I love that feature, right? They connect to your phone within seconds, same way that the AirPods do. Number two, the Galaxy Buds fit snug in your ear, and they don't have no stem. They have a rubber end piece, so if you're like me and you don't like having a plastic thing in your ear, because for some reason, whenever I wear plastic earbuds that, you know, have that plastic coating, my left ear starts hurting really bad, but only because of the plastic casing and all that. So I like that it uses rubber. Number two, it can wirelessly charge. So on the back, you'll notice that, now this is not the same with the Gear Iconics, but with the Gear Iconics, it has a little pairing button. Now, unfortunately, you don't get these with a pairing button, but it's not that hard to put them in pairing mode. You just put one in your ear, or both. You press and hold the cover, you know, where you would press the button at, which is just like on the outside. Press and hold it, and it puts it into pairing mode, yada yada. But on the back of these, it has a Type-C for your earbuds. It will charge all three. But what if you don't want to have that kind of option? You don't want wireless. I get why people would be skeptical of wireless for multiple reasons. Most people, when they buy Bluetooth headphones, they hate it. They hate the experience, and I totally get that. I know I did. Back before Galaxy Buds were a thing, I understood that completely. The reason being was because Galaxy Buds changed the experience. With Galaxy Buds, you got something different. And, you know, not Samsung, but Apple's AirPods did the same thing. Now, granted, I prefer the Galaxy Buds because they have the rubber piece, but in short, I would have no problem using AirPods. Especially considering the fact that Apple has just released their new AirPods, the AirPod Pros, with rubber pieces. You know, most people are always either anti-Apple or Android. Let me tell you something. I'm not anti-Apple for terms of products. I'm anti-Apple for terms of service. So for those of you who are not familiar, Apple overcharges. Okay? So there was a video of a man who had a broken laptop. It was one of the, if you know how laptops are, you open it up, the screen's here, and then not the laptop, but the keyboard is down here. There's a little pin in between that allows you to see the screen. And so what happened is that, what's called, 1 second, sorry, I'm updating I have to update my Galaxy Buds, which is something you'll have to do every now and then. But basically what happened is, man went in there, they say it's going to cost him over $1,000 to, what's it called, to repair it. He was better off getting a new laptop. He takes it to a local third-party shop. They bend this little pin back into place, and the guy said at most I would have charged $50. And here's the cool bit. Apple even said they thought it was water damage. So the way they do it, they basically got this thing called a water detection system. It's a little knob in the back that turns a certain color when it comes into contact with moisture or water. You know, it kind of helps them narrow down what the cause could be. It's a cool feature, I will admit, but it's not foolproof. So, you know. But here's the cool bit. Here is the cool bit. So, the guy went to a third-party store. He got it fixed for nothing. The guy didn't even charge him. He said, for bending that pin back together, I'm not even going to charge you. But if I were to charge you, it would have been about $50 at most. Apple was ready to run that man through the roof with money, because that's their goal. They want you to buy more stuff. Now, I will admit, Apple does have its advantages, just like how Google Home and Alexa have advantages of their own. You know, Alexa can run with Vector, whereas Google Home, you can control using your phone. You can do voice commands through your phone. You don't have to have Google Home. Both have their advantages, but thing is, for what you're getting, Apple isn't worth it. Granted, you get your stuff stored when you use your account. You have an account, and, you know, if you lose your phone or something like that, you can just log into it, brand new phone, and boom, all your stuff's right there. That is a benefit. However, Samsung has something very similar. It's like this Samsung Switch app or something. What it is basically you take all your data and you switch it, and it's not the exact same, I won't lie to you, it's not as good, but you take your data, you switch it, right? You take your data and you switch it to your new phone, right? For me, I went from my Note 5 to the Note 10. Now, most people think, well, why didn't you switch from your Note 8? Because that's what I had before, and unfortunately it did break. It stopped working after a while. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go in there, fix all the circuitry and all that. If I can, I want to save the memory, because I do have some stuff on there. But, you know, I have to be real with you. Even if I can't recover the memory, I've built enough on my new phone that I'll be satisfied. So, you know, but let me be blunt. If you're gonna get an Apple phone, here's what you need to do. Take some money and, let's call it, store 1 to 2,000 of it, right? Just keep 1 to 2,000 on deck at all times. The reason being is because Apple can get pretty expensive. And if you're going to use Apple, you might as well be prepared for that. Like, okay, well, instead of getting a new phone, how much will it cost to repair this one? Actually, there was this guy. I don't remember who it was. It was either Austin Evans or Linus Tech Tips. One of the two. But basically, he took his, what's it called? He took his computer to, what's it called? He took it to an Apple store. So naturally, he took it because the stand broke off. Now, the stand was meant to be interchanged. Not constantly, but it was meant to be changed. Right? You could swap it out, and it was something that was licensed by Apple. And basically it broke off, and they scratched up the new stand, and they wreaked havoc on it and all the bottom parts of it. So the question being is now, what do we do? Do we continue using Apple, or do we upgrade to Windows? Well, here's the thing. With Apple products, they do give you a level of security that you cannot get with Windows. I mean, I hate to say it, but Windows, to a degree, granted, you still get your data. You can swap out parts, and it's all saved, like your, what's it called? Your parts are all saved and all that, especially with the new Windows 10. You don't have to have a specific code anymore to unlock it. You don't have to have that key, that product key. You can literally get a watermarked version of Windows 10, and it will still work. Because, granted, you know, you have to have an operating system on your computer, but you don't need to spend like $100 on Windows 10. Me personally, I would rather spend $100 than have that watermark. So most people wonder why get the pirated version. One, Windows doesn't care. Windows has enough money that they don't care. Okay? They just don't care. You can do whatever you want with that information. So, the way they work is, with the watermark version, you get a little thing on your screen that says, hey, you know, activate Windows. But it still functions as Windows. But you don't get those crucial updates. Now, it's nothing to buy a product key. But honestly, you're better off just buying a copy. Especially if you're building your computer from scratch. Just buy Windows 10. It'll take like $100 extra. That's about it. So, now that we've discussed technology, I think it's time we discuss something else. Let's discuss the future of, well, not only this channel,
This is too much.
but maybe, just maybe, what you guys want in store. So, what do you guys want to see? Do you want to see me maybe build a computer? Do you want to see new gameplay? What kind of games are you interested in seeing? That's what I need to know. Because, honestly, I want to try these new games. So I've been hearing a lot of things about Fallout. Both versions of it. I've heard good things. I've heard some not so good things, but mostly good things. Especially of the Gears of War franchise. I will be doing some Halo Combat Evolved once I figure out how to get my system set up. And what I think I'm going to be doing for that, once I get my new computer, I'm going to download this program called OBS. Open Broadcast Service, if you will. Basically, I'll basically be taking my screen on my computer and I will be live streaming it. Right? I'll be live streaming my computer, and at this point in time, what I think I might do instead, once I get my room a little bit cleaned up and reset up my desktop over in the corner, what I think I might do instead is, well, I'm thinking about taking my computer and I'll have it running on one side of the room and turn around and have OBS running on the other side. You know, kind of make it set up so I can do that. So that way I can live stream those kind of games for you. Because I do enjoy playing Xbox. And I want to be able to show you guys some stuff that, you know, you can't get on the PlayStation. For instance, I've got Hitman on the Xbox. I can't get that on the PlayStation, not the good one. Sorry. So, yeah, no, you know, as I was saying, with OBS, I'll be able to afford to live stream video games from the Xbox. Okay, I'll be able to afford to live stream these games, so you'll get to see games such as Halo, Hitman. I might even be doing Scarface. Now, for those of you who are familiar or not familiar with Scarface, the phrase, "say hello to my little friend," should be something of memorance. Because that game right there, this one I played. I also played this other one called LA, or True Crime Streets of LA. Basically, it was a cop game. You went around as a detective. You went around, solve crimes. You beat people up, and it was a fun game to play. Another game I would really love to play is this one called MTX Moto Tracks. Now this one, of course, is one of those motocross games that had a story campaign built into it. You know, you kind of played and did cool tricks, and that was it. But it was good for what it was. But like I said, I want to be able to afford this kind of stuff, and not just that way I can just like show it off. But I want to show you guys the games and the graphics that are on the Xbox. Most people think, oh, if it's on the Xbox, either they think, oh, it's so much better than the PS4, or they think it's shittier. You know, because they'll call it, you know, they'll say Gay Station or Gay Box or some shit like that. Like, they'll always say some shit about one or the other. Let me tell you something, and I'll be completely and utterly honest with you. I'm kind of tired of that. I'm kind of tired of that, you know. I was hanging out with someone on, what's it called? On Xbox. And so I'm hanging out with my buddy Tyler, right? And what happens is I meet an Xbox player. And, you know, that's no big deal, right? So then he finds out I play on PlayStation, or as he called it, Gay Station. And, like, he didn't harass me or anything. It was just that was immediate reaction from Xbox player, because he knew I played PlayStation. And then you turn around and have PlayStation users. I don't know what they say to Xbox users. I really don't. I know that PlayStation's called Gay Station because it's like so easy to call it Gay Station. I mean, we've even got a theme for Pride Month, so, you know, PlayStation's kind of milking that, I guess. You know, it is a nice theme, though, I won't lie. But I'm just sitting here thinking, why does it matter what I play, you know? Because, like, here's the thing. The people who say gaming is gaming, this ain't meant for you. But for those who are, like, sided with one or the other, y'all need to get your priorities straight, okay? Who cares if one person plays PlayStation at one part in their day and Xbox in the other, you know? Like, if you know, waste your time worrying about that shit, you're wasting your life. You know, like, who cares? Because, like, both consoles have both definitive abilities that, in short, are, you know, unique. They're better. Sorry about that. I had to respond to a question that I was asking. So, like I said, you know, learn to not hate, okay? Gaming is gaming. Now, for those of you who did not know, there's this thing called Epic Games. It's typically synonymous with Fortnite, you know, the game that everyone likes to rip on, but oh, PUBG is so much better. Again, gaming is gaming. I play both. I ain't got no hate for PUBG. I do have one minor inconvenience, and that's that I can't carry my account from one into the other. It's like I can't transfer my mobile account to the PlayStation, which does kind of suck. But, I mean, even still, I can live stream from my phone. I have that capability, so that's not an issue at all. But, yeah, no, what's it called? I can tell you, Fortnite ain't nothing to, you know, joke about. And most people think, oh, Fortnite's this horrible game, and it's that, oh, it's so cheesy, it's for kids. And I'm like, it's a game. Okay? Because when I think games for kids, I think something like the Sketch-a-Etch games on the Nintendo Wii, or like SpongeBob. And even then, some adults still play them. You wouldn't say that Lego Batman is for kids, would you? I mean, if you did, you are stick in the mud, because, I mean, it's freaking Batman. I mean, who's sitting there tripping on Batman, you know what I mean? Like, it's a game, have fun. And now the downside of Fortnite is that, of course, you can't get good right away. You have to have someone play with you when you first start so you can learn the mechanics. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's, in fact, better to play with friends than to play solos. But, you know, ain't nothing wrong with that. It's just, you know, you gotta roll with it, you know? So, they are. You know, anyone who tries to tell you different is compensating for something. I don't know what it is. They're compensating for their ego or whatever, but they tripping. Gaming is gaming. And I'm just saying we should get that started, you know, get that mentality around the gaming community. Because I'm tired of seeing people saying, oh, one is better than the other. Like, it has advantages that are better than the other, but the console in and of itself is not. Now, of course, with the PS5 and the Xbox One, things aren't so black and white. You know, they're not so easy to decipher. Because Xbox One has better storage, has more of it. But the PS5 is supposed to be optimized for gaming, which means you'll have better gameplay. That is the downside of both those consoles. See, that's a problem with most of these companies. such as when they did the PS3 and the Xbox 360. They gained something, but at the cost of something else. So, PS3, it gained the fact that it became a household name because it was, you know, designed as the first media system, you know, well, not the first media system, but like the first widely known media system. Granted, the 360 did have Netflix, but like, truly speaking, you know, the PlayStation was just well known. Everyone knows PlayStation does tend to do better in sales. That's because they, well, see, with PlayStation 2, they were the first known DVD player on the market that also acted as a gaming console. Most people don't know that. So, you know, that's something that's also really cool. But, see, with the 360, you didn't have it built in. You had to have a separate device. You know, and what's it called? So, basically, here's the deal. Either way you look at it, you're gonna lose something. Hold on 1 second. No, I don't want that one. There we go. Sorry. Responding to a text. Yeah, so. The only difference between consoles, phones, all sorts of stuff like that, even with Converse versus Vans, is simply performance in the user's eye. So for instance, with the PlayStation 5, if you don't mind having a little less storage to get that extra performance, you will be able to play just fine. But if you need that extra storage, the PS5 may not be the way to go. You know, because most people are like, it's about the adventure, the journey. You know, when I think of a story mode, I think games like Black Ops or The Last of Us. The Last of Us, I remember playing that on the PS3. Now I was 13 or so when I was playing this game. I remember it was one of the big titles up there, and it's still widely regarded as one of the best video games out there to this day, right? And so, what happened was, I'm 13, I play it, and then I see that, you know, in the beginning, someone already is killed, and no less it's a child. Obviously, I was scared. I'm a kid myself, I'm not much older than the child in the game, and I didn't touch it for a little bit. I grew up a little bit, and I played it, and I was like, that's scary, obviously, but I know what's going to happen, so it's less jarring. You know what I'm saying? That's what I loved about The Last of Us. It pushes the limits of shock factor. And so I am curious to try The Last of Us Part 2, and once I complete The Last of Us, the original series, I will be trying the second one. I will be trying the second one. I don't know if I'm going to live stream that or not, because, you know, that's my thing, is I do tend to live stream things a little late. But what I will be doing, here's what I will be doing. I will be trying to show off my new computer once I get it. And what I'll be doing is, I'm going to take that computer, right? I'm going to take that computer, I'm going to show it off, I'm going to show you the features it has. For instance, it'll have a built-in Type-C port. Now, Type-C is typically the new Android phone charger port. Here's the thing. The cord I got with my Note 10 is Type-C on both sides. So when the thing I plug into the block is the Type-C that you would plug into your phone, right? And so it works as a data cable, and it also works as a charging cable. I can use it to charge my phone, send data, so on and so forth. Now, the cool bit about this is that I will no longer have to use the extra USB-A port, or your standard USB port. I wouldn't have to use one. I can just use Type-C and be done with it. Type-C is not only faster at transferring data, it's also faster at charging. And I don't have to waste a USB port. Because USB-A to USB-C just doesn't work as good. I've noticed that. Most of my chargers burn out where they don't charge as fast or accurately. So, that is unfortunately the downside. Okay, so here's the deal. The PC will have DisplayPort options. I'll be able to... Actually, one of the computers I was looking at had room for 5 storage units. 5 hard drives. Which means I could have years and years of storage. Here's the thing. You don't want to get something like that unless you absolutely know for 100% the work you're going to be doing is not going to slow down too much over time. Now with the i9, you're good to go. And here's the thing, with this new program I'm going to be setting up, I'm going to be saving up some money. I figured out how to do it. So I found out that I make $900, right, a month, right? Now, $400 of that goes to rent, and I can spend $400 on my card, which means at the end of the month, I'm left with $100 left over. So what would happen if I decide to, I decide that each paycheck, I take $50, that extra $50 I make every paycheck, and store it away. At the end of the month, I have an extra spare $100, and I don't have to touch it. It just stays there. Eventually, by the end of 10 months, I have $1,000. I build it up, and I could buy the computer instead of, you know, deciding, hey, this, and this. Or if I want, I can go and buy a moped. Now, most people are like, well, why would you buy a moped? That's a dumb idea. Well, 2 things. One, I'm concerned about getting my license. Right? Obviously I am. Number 2, I do want to get a car. I want to get a license. I want to get all that, but I don't know. For some reason, I wasn't like the other kids when I was growing up. I didn't want to get my license like everyone else. I don't know. I think I just might get my adult permit, drive around a bit, do all that, be done with it. But yeah, truth be told, once I get this new computer, I'm gonna be going for a brand new, you know, little camcorder, or, you know, a little camera. And what I'll be doing is I'll be taking those videos and I'll be uploading them to YouTube, so you can guys see kind of like what's new with the new system, how my gaming setup is currently set up, because I've never done a gaming setup rig. That's what I've never done. And I've also got this new chair that I do absolutely adore. I just love it. So this new chair I got, I can massage my back using my gaming chair. I don't like to use this function too often, but when I do, I have that functionality. The best part is, since my computer's right here, I don't have to stretch no cord or nothing. I just plug in the USB, kind of sit back, relax, lets me do my thing. Or, because it's got a nice little loop, I can just kind of let it sit there. I only paid $120 for it. $120 for my gaming chair. And the best part is that it was so easy to build. I didn't even need to look at the instructions. All I needed to do was look at the parts, move the armrest up and down. Now, when I say up and down, I mean like you can slide them up or down, so that way, like, if you don't want to use them, you can just kind of like have them hang out by the side, or if you don't want to, what's it called, or if you do want to use them, just slide them down. Now, granted, I did get mine from Walmart. I've been buying from Walmart these days ever since the Miss Rona came to town. I buy from Walmart. I've found they're very reliable. Do not recommend buying from Amazon. Not too much anyways, because I bought from Amazon. I did buy from Amazon recently. I bought these things, they were Beyblade DVDs, right? From the original series, not the newer stuff. You know, the ones where you actually had to take them apart and you swap out the parts. You get the little wrench and everything, whereas with the new ones you just clip them together and then, oh, they can burst apart. You know, it's not as good as the original one. But I bought the DVDs because I wanted to relive some old school nostalgia, because this is what I watched when I was a little younger. And, you know, I did enjoy the series so much that I would watch it again. And I started watching it. You know, I love the character development. And I've started watching a little bit more anime. So when anime first became the thing in America, I wasn't tripping over that stuff. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't like against it, but I just didn't care. You know how when new fads come out, you're like the only sensible one? That was kind of my role in that. You know, I didn't care. There was no reason to care. But over time I started watching some, and I watched this great one called Full Metal Alchemist. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with what alchemy is, and it sounds scary, to simplify, alchemy is taking something, understanding what it is, breaking it down, and building it back up into something new. So, for instance, alchemists actually hid their philosophies in cookbooks, like actual alchemists did. Like, not just like in the manga or the anime, but actual real live alchemists. So, you know, like, that was the actual thing. It was a very similar concept. It was easier to hide. And the reason why alchemists hid their philosophies was because in the wrong hands, you know, it could be dangerous. You know, it's kind of like how you don't want to let too many people know, so you use codex. Codex, by the way, was a thing that alchemists use to kind of like reference their work. So, for instance, tin could represent silver in one meaning, but represent the actual metal tin in another context. You know, sometimes it could be quite literal, sometimes it could be metaphorical, and that was that. But either way, back to Full Metal Alchemist. So, they've got 2 different TV shows out, especially on Netflix. I do highly suggest you check them out. But, you know what? I would suggest checking out this thing called Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood first. So that is the actual storyline. So the way it went down when Full Metal Alchemist came out, the way it was that 2 people, the Elric brothers, the whole concept is basically they tried to use alchemy to resurrect their mother. And it failed, because you can't resurrect the dead. Because the law of equivalent exchange, the way that works is you take something you already own and you turn it into something else. Problem is that when someone dies, their soul is no longer in this world, and you can't resurrect a soul that's no longer in this world. You know what I'm saying? So, and since there's no equivalent to a human soul, what happens is you get this thing called a rebound. Basically, what happened is Edward's younger brother, Al or Alphonse, whatever you want to call him, lost his body, had to have his soul bonded to a suit of armor. Ed lost his arm and a leg, and this was all due to them trying to resurrect their mom, right? And obviously the whole purpose of the story is basically they're trying to get their bodies back. You know, they want to find a way to maybe bring back the dead, and they find out that they can using a Philosopher's Stone. Philosopher's Stone, by the way, is an actual thing. It's the thing of myths, of legends and lore. So, if that name sounds familiar, look no further than Harry Potter. Especially if you remember the name Nicholas Flamel. Now, most people don't know this, but Nicholas Flamel was an actual alchemist. And the Sorcerer's Stone, or if you go based off the original book, which in Britain, the original title is called the Philosopher's Stone, was an actual, artifact that alchemists believed could be created. Now, whether or not it actually existed is kind of, based, it's kind of like the equivalent of religion. You either believe in it or you don't. I personally believe Philosopher's Stones can be created and do exist. But see, the thing is that it even in Harry Potter, they got it correct. The red tincture that you saw was actually pretty spot on as to what is described in legend as the Philosopher's Stone. Basically, the Philosopher's Stone said that you could take this stone and turn any metal or element and turn it into gold. Right? And the thing is, eventually in Britain, because people did believe this was a possible thing, they actually outlawed alchemy at one point in Britain. I don't know if it's still currently outlawed, but they did it due to inflation, and all that. People actually believed that you could actually do this. Now, whether or not you believe it or not is a whole other issue, but essentially the brothers go on a search for the Philosopher's Stone, and they find, at least in the series, that the main ingredient is human souls. You have to sacrifice a bunch of human souls and use their souls as energy in the stone to power it. It's kind of an ends to a mean kind of thing, like, it's kind of one of those justified or necessary evil kind of dealios. So, but in the original series, like in the manga, basically what happened is while the author was writing it, the TV show Full Metal Alchemist came out. And no one knew that at the time she was still determining how she was going to write the book. Right? And so it turns out that basically they created another show called Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And that Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood was the actual story, or at least the TV version of it. That's as close as it can get. You know how TV shows kind of warp it a little bit, but it still holds the same basic story plot and the same storyline. You get the idea. So, with that being said, Full Metal Alchemist, the original one, is kind of, it's more or less an alternative universe. Like, it's still the same universe, but it's kind of where the directors thought that the original author was going to go with it. Now, granted, that's not where it went, and we got the new one after all. So, we got the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I do recommend you check it out. It is at least in the top 5. I'm pretty sure it's number 3 in the best animes in the world. Another one, well, this isn't actually an anime, but it's in an anime style. For those of you who like that anime style, it's this TV show called Castlevania. Now, the premise of Castlevania is very simple. So the Castlevania video games basically say, oh, Dracula rises 100 years, a legendary family comes and tries to slay him, and vampires, typical vampire versus vampire hunter, very Van Helsing versus Dracula-ish, kind of like that. And, honestly, I do like how they went in the direction with this. What's it called? Sorry, hold on, I'm turning my lights on. There we go. So, I do like how they went in the direction of this TV series, because there's like over 20 Castlevania games, and they picked off with Dracula, or what's it called, Dracula's Curse. the third video game from the second time around. They did, like I said, 20 different games and all that, and basically, I'm gonna set the scene for you for the first episode. So the first episode, Dracula is walking away with his wife, or not with his wife, but he's been married to his wife, and the deal she made with him was if she could learn the knowledge of immortals, because granted, this is the 1400s, most people at the time would daub chicken blood to heal wounds, you know, a wise woman, if you would, even though they weren't very wise. Basically, what happened is, she wanted to become a real doctor. And, see, this ties in with the Catholic Church oppressing the majority of the population, saying you don't have the right to learn this because you are not of, you know, noble descent. See, that's one of the great things about religion, is that religion is a major problem in the world. Like, don't get me wrong, I am religious to a degree myself, but I'm not, like, gonna shove it in your face, or at least not intentionally. I don't like that. You know, I don't like when people try to... Actually, I was watching this one little clip from young Sheldon, and I hated that they put this in. Even if, as a Christian myself, they were trying to get him to go to Christianity. Here's how they did. Basically, Sheldon said this. He said that, what if I choose not to be a Christian? Would you still love me? And he said, yeah. His mom said, yeah, I would, but that there is only truly one God. Right? Now, as a Christian, obviously, I would believe that. But the way they pushed that episode was in the sense that it made it seem like she was kind of forcing him to be a Christian. You know, like, that's not Christian being a Christian. You know what I'm saying? You got to find that stuff out on your own. You got to find out what you believe. Now, granted, for me, it did work. You know, I was raised as a Christian, and you know, naturally, at first I was like, I want to be a good Christian. I mean, I had my troubles, sure, but I never did anything like illegal, so can't be that bad. But yeah, I was like every other kid. I did bad things every now and then, but you know, over time I started to become less religious, and only when I started watching Lucifer again did I kind of start to become a little bit more religious again, but not in the same way that everyone wants you to. First off and foremost, let's knock this out of the way. Don't base your life off the Bible. Here's why. It has so many contradictions. First off, and I did see this in an episode of Lucifer, I do think this is a very good point that one of the actors made when they were talking about this in the TV show. They said, if you know, now the contradiction, biggest one, Lucifer is supposed to be the embodiment of evil, but somehow he was an angel. Now everyone always assumes that he is to blame for humanity's sins. But for those of you who are not familiar with Lucifer's name, so first off, his name when he was still in heaven was Samael, which in Hebrew translates to poison of God. His new name, which is Lucifer, translates to morning star or light bringer. And so my theory is that in order to become a better person, he had to fall from heaven. You know, I mean, because think about it. Only when we hit our lowest points do we become better people. Right? I mean, that's just a fact. You know, no matter who you are, and I assume that would apply for celestial beings too, you have to be at your lowest point to understand your highest. You know? But a phrase stuck with me that I like to think is true. I would like to believe this is true. Is that Lucifer is not evil, but rather that he punishes evil. I'd like to believe that's true, right? And the reason why is because anytime you'll go to a Catholic church, or not even a Catholic church, just a church in general, and you'll have like a little kid who says, "Does God love me?" or something like that. You'll have the priest or some adult who's a churchgoer will say, "God loves all of his children," right? But then they'll talk bad about the devil, saying God does not love him. But what people forget, Lucifer is actually one of God's direct children. So, does that mean that that's a contradiction? Yes. Yes, it does. Because if God loves all of his children, regardless of what Lucifer has done, which, by the way, it has to be said, all Lucifer did was act like a rebellious teenager. I mean, let's be real here. That's like a majority, if not all, of the human population. When you're a teenager, you're just like this angsty motherfucker, you know, who's like, "Get away from me." Like, ugh, you know, just like the depressed fuck who just doesn't know what to do with life. That's like everyone. At least in their teenage years. So, who's to say that's not what happened with him? You know? And everyone will call him names like the devil or Satan. But the thing is, those aren't names. They're concepts. So, I don't remember what Satan is supposed to translate to, but it's supposed to translate to, you know, something along the lines of, you know, going against the grain, you know, or you're supposed to be, I forget what it's supposed to be. Honestly, I do. But what I do know is that calling him by those names really doesn't change the fact. See, most people will sit here and think he sits on your shoulder, making you do those bad things. Right? I've been watching Lucifer a lot, and it kind of opened my eyes a little bit, if I'm being honest. Because for the longest time, people thought, oh, you know, I'm sure at one point he was bad, but weren't we all? We have our lowest points. My thing is, I think he was just being the smug, arrogant prince at the time. And it kind of, you know, gave him a second to, when he got banished to hell, it kind of gave him a time to process, recollect, become a better person. Because think about it, if he was truly the embodiment of evil, he wouldn't have been in heaven in first place. Especially with all the power he has. For those of you who are not familiar, granted, Lucifer wasn't, I'm pretty sure he wasn't God's first child. But he had almost the exact same power as God. Just saying, you know. And like from the pictures I've seen, you know, he was definitely a beautiful being. That was actually his downfall. Arrogance. Pride. You know, arrogance or pride, if you will. And, you know, most people think, well, how can you say such things? You're going to end up in hell. I mean, I'm like, well, my thing is that I like to think that he's not sitting on my shoulder making me do anything bad. I'm responsible for my actions and my actions alone. Because God gave me free will. And to sit there and say Lucifer is sitting on my shoulder, or God is sitting on my shoulder, it goes both ways, is kind of a slap in the face to him, you know what I mean? It's like, he didn't give me free will to sit on my shoulder and tell me what to do. He gave me free will so I can make my own choices and determine myself whether or not I'm worthy of heaven or hell. And see, that's what I don't like when people try to blame Lucifer for everything. Like, he don't sit there on your shoulder 24/7 determining whether or not you're gonna do something bad. You determine that. That's your conscience. I mean. Not conscious, but conscience. And so, you know, I kind of want to spread that ideology, you know. Even if you don't believe in that, you know, sort of thing. Maybe you believe in a different religion, or maybe you different, or you're just an atheist. So, you know, rather a lack of religion. Let's be real here for a moment. The idea that you're responsible for your own actions isn't so out there, you know what I mean? So, next time you're gonna blame something on someone else, just remember two things. One, if you are religious, God's watching. God's not looking for actors. He's looking for truth. He's looking for people he's going to want to welcome through into the Silver City and into those pearly gates. Right? He's going to want to be around people who make heaven worth living. But at the same time, don't let guilt over the past, even after you've rectified the issue, be what defines your life. I'm gonna tell you a story. So when I was in 7th grade, I dated this girl, right? Dated her twice, once in 7th grade, once in 8th grade. And when I got to high school, I found out, or at least I thought I did, that she was cheating on me. Now, I didn't find this out directly from her, but rather the guy who said she was cheating on me with. He said, yeah, dude, she cheated on you twice. And granted, she did say she didn't need me no more. She had a new guy. But for all these years, I thought she cheated on me. There was not a shadow of doubt in my mind. But I thought about it. Right? There was a little incident that happened. I flirted with her. She stopped me. I'll leave it at that, because that's what happened. It's what happened, basically. And so, I took a second to think. That's not cheater behavior. And granted, anyone can change, but I also started thinking more about it, like, what if he lied? I immediately gave him the benefit of the doubt. Why shouldn't I have done the same for her? So, you see, I created this own kind of assumption in my head, and I do regret that. Kind of like how people do with Lucifer. They assume he sits on your shoulder, that he is the bad guy, that he is the one who makes you do bad things. Well, I come to find out that coincidences led up. So, for instance, here, let me explain what happened. So, that it was him she cheated on me with twice. He was the only one who ever told me she cheated on me. And to add insult to injury, he kind of made it like, it didn't seem like really. Sorry. Another text. Either way. So, naturally, I started questioning things. And see, that's what I want you guys to do too. Question things. If you hear something, don't assume it's true. Because, here's the thing. For all these years, I wouldn't say hate, but I wouldn't definitely say I was her friend. You know what I mean? But I tried to get back into contact with her and find out, like, what happened. And one night, she hits me up. And it's been a while, too, so, you know, I was out of her life for a pretty long time. We start talking. And, you know, I found out her life has been a shitstorm. You know, I find out that she's just, she didn't have an easy life in the time that I was away. And granted, I do feel partially responsible for that. But regardless of how I feel, it happened. Ain't nothing I can do about it. But what I can do is get some closure. Because for so long, I lived my life based on the assumption of one person. And my point is, you want to find out the truth. Because I'm going to find it out, you know, and if I spent my entire life believing what he said, and it turned out not to be true, then I need to change how I live my life. You know, because for too long I've become a trusting person. That's just who I am. You know, I'm just a very trusting person. So, you know, but my point of that story, when I tell you this, is that you can't just sit there and make assumptions until you find out. Because when I started thinking about it, I realized he was the only one who told me. No one else knew. I feel like if that were true, someone else would have known. You know, so there is that. And, you know, like I said, make your own decisions. Remember this, and remember these words well. You create your own destiny, whether it be sinful or heroic. Whether you be the hero, whether you be the villain, or if you just choose to live your life as you, and, you know, you don't choose to do anything with it, you know, you just kind of live your life, you chilling, you vibing, that's okay too. There ain't nothing wrong with that, but just remember that it's you who chooses. Don't blame God, don't blame Lucifer, don't blame no one for your decisions. The only person you have to blame is yourself. At the end of the day, you are what matters. You determine your fate, you determine your destiny. You know, so there is that. I did feel like that was worth sharing because, you know, once I started watching the TV show Lucifer, obviously I got some clarity on some issues that I didn't know I needed clarity on. Like, for instance, I got to learn more about the Bible in a context of characters. You know, I got to learn about new characters. So everyone knows the famous story about Cain and Abel. You know, and obviously, you know, we know about Lucifer, we know about all these other characters, but we also got to learn about characters such as, well, Azrael. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Azrael, or if you are, the name may sound familiar, and that is because he is, in DC Comics, a member of the Saint Dumas clan. Right? And the reason why he kills people in DC Comics is because his biblical counterpart is actually the Angel of Death. And in the TV show Lucifer, the blade that Azrael wields actually is supposed to, what's it called, wipe a person out of existence. No heaven, no hell, just gone. So, you know, naturally, I got intrigued by this. I was intrigued by the name Azrael in and of itself. Now, I do have a comic book I'd like to share with you guys. It's this thing called Batman White Knight. Now, for those of you who are not familiar, it was written by a wonderful man, written and illustrated by Sean Murphy. Now, he wrote the original one called, what's it called? Batman White Knight. Now, he turned around and is this year releasing Batman Curse of the White Knight. Now, in Batman White Knight, you get something different. You get something new. And what you get is, first off, you obviously get Harley Quinn. Right? You get two Harley Quinns in the very first one. You get a sane Joker. But you know, you get to see different sides of characters that you wouldn't think of. Now, the new one, they actually feature Azrael. the DC Comics version. So, and fun fact, for those of you who are not familiar with this thing called Vertigo, not like when you feel dizzy and all that, but rather a comic book company. So, the way companies like Marvel and DC Comics will run is they'll have what's known as a label company, which means that these particular comics, which are still branded as DC Comics, they specialize in certain elements that regular DC Comics stores wouldn't carry. Or not so much that they wouldn't carry, but that they wouldn't openly display. Such as with Lucifer. Fun fact, DC Comics wrote the series Lucifer, and that's why the CW has it on its channel, because it was a DC Comics series. As was iZombie. They were under a comic book company called DC Vertigo. So Vertigo is actually a DC Comics company, or like, it's kind of like a sub-company. You know, basically the Vertigo label created, you know, comic book series like Lucifer, iZombie, and it dealt with supernatural and, you know, stuff of the holy nature, you know, stuff that you wouldn't normally deal with. Now, they do have comic book companies such as Dark Horse and Image that naturally deal with those, and they also deal with video games as well, like Halo. But truth be told, you know, DC Comics still did a pretty nice job of handling that stuff as well. And so, you know, I do recommend iZombie as well. iZombie was a very good TV show for what I did watch. I didn't watch it all the way through, but I did watch up to at least, what, Season 3, Season 4, as where I'm at with Lucifer. iZombie basically is about this detective, right? Or not detective, no, she is actually a coroner, right? She's the ME, the medical examiner, if you will, of, you know, of this police department. She's one of them, anyways. Now, in the beginning of the series, you see that she's a doctor. She's a prominent doctor who is up and coming. She's an up and coming resident. She is becoming a doctor. That's her dream. She's married to her dream guy. She's got a dream job. You know, all this, all that. You get the idea. Now, one night she goes to a boat party. She gets scratched by a zombie. And in this TV series, zombies are created using the combination of this special drug and the mixture of an energy drink. Creates zombies. Right? And then when you get scratched by one, you become a zombie. But here's the really cool kicker. These zombies walk and talk just like humans. With the only side effect being, you know, they have to eat brains. And they have to dye their hair and skin. But aside from that, they walk and talk just like humans. So, you know, it kind of really takes it to a whole new level. And I do think it's worth some value points. You know, but with that being said, you know, I do recommend iZombie. Basically, you get to see her play detective. She plays detective, basically. Like, she's the ME, but she hangs out with the detective. And, you know, she goes around solving crimes. Because apparently she gets visions from the brain she eats. That's really cool, by the way. And they actually, in the title screen, actually show you like a comic book version of her. And it's actually played by Rose McCleaver, if I'm not mistaken. She's the main character. It's a really good story, very well told. And, I mean, come on, who wouldn't love a good zombie TV show? You know what I'm saying? Who wouldn't? Okay. So, naturally, with this TV series, you know, very good TV series, as I mentioned with Lucifer, but, actually, there's a couple of series I would recommend. Obviously, I mentioned Full Metal Alchemist, Castlevania. I didn't really deep too well into Castlevania. Basically, the very first episode, Dracula meets his future wife. And then you get to see how she's killed, like a year or so later. And their son, who becomes Alucard. Now, for those of you who think that name sounds familiar, Alucard is actually Dracula spelled backwards. And the way Alucard was given his name, because at the time, Wallachia was a separate country. Romania did not exist. This was the 1400s. Romania did not exist. This is before electricity. This is when magic was still running amok. Vampires, zombies, night creatures, you know, demonic possessions, alchemy, magic, all sorts of stuff. You know, all sorts of stuff was still around at that time. Castles, towns. You get the point. So, the church, being like the church that they are, let's be real here, most Catholic churches were very corrupt at this time, as they held precious knowledge and refused to let the common folk read it. They thought it wasn't in the best interest of the common folk to get more educated than they are. So naturally, the church burns Dracula's wife because she practices science. And apparently that is against the word of God. Now, it's not, for the record, but it's Catholic Church. Basically, whatever they say goes. They claim to serve God. They don't, but you get the point. So, basically, you get to see first TV series, or in the first season, you get to see Trevor Belmont and Sypha Belnades awaken Alucard, or Adrian, because that's his real name, Adrian. You get to see him woken from his tomb, because what happened is he went to stop his father from releasing the Night Horde, and his father cut a giant slash right across his chest. He had to heal for a year. So, you know. And the Belmonts are basically like the Van Helsings. They hunted creatures of the night. So, naturally, you know, when you think Belmont, think basically a Van Helsing. And then Belnades, Sypha Belnades, was actually what's known as a speaker. A nomadic group who would go around and they would transfer their stories using words. They wouldn't write them down in books, nothing. So, you know, naturally, you know, she becomes a magician, because that's how cartoons are, because that's what it is. It's a cartoon, but it's in an anime-like style. And what's really cool about it is that they've got 3 seasons up right now. They can check out at any given time. And did I get any? No, I didn't. Okay. I thought I did get some of them messages. So, you know, naturally, with this TV series, you get an adventure, you get to see how Dracula gets destroyed, or at least that's what the current assumption is right now. Like, we see him get staked through the heart, we see him die and killed by his own son, but we don't know if he stays dead. At this point in time, we assume he's in hell with his wife. And if you guys can get more subscribers, you know, likes and all that, by all means, please do try that, because the more subscribers I can get, the more watch time I can get, I can start breaking into monetization. I can start taking in money and take that money and turn it into a full-time job where I don't have to go to work anymore, you know, so I can stay here and focus on putting out videos for you guys. And what my current game plan is right now is I'm thinking about doing all my videos on Monday. Take my videos, do them on Monday, and turn around and release them day in, day in. You know what I mean? Because apparently it's the function that my brother told me about where you can actually release, you can set videos so they don't release till like a certain day of the week. Just do 7 days worth of videos, release one every week, and try to do that. So I will be trying to do that as well. If nothing else, I will be trying to upload a little bit more. I try not to stay away from YouTube too long, but I know that I can be away for some time. So I will be trying to upload a bit more. And not to mention, I will be trying to get the PS5 when it does drop and release. However, let's be real here, I probably won't be able to save, you know, enough time. I won't have enough time to save the money right away, but yeah, I will be trying to get it pretty soon after, you know, to make sure that there's no bugs or anything like that. And then what I'll be doing is I'll be showing you guys like the gameplay and whatnot. But on top of that, you know, like I said, if you guys can really help me out with the subscribers, that's the big thing that's going to be going for me. Because, you know, the longer or the more subscribers I can get, faster I can hurry up, get this thing going, get this ball rolling. I can start posting videos daily. Wake up whenever I want, that'd be nice too. But big thing will be I'll be able to get you guys more videos out. I'll be able to show you guys cool things that most YouTubers don't touch up on. Like for instance, like the back button attachment that most people don't know about. So this little back button attachment for the PS4, you just slide it into your what's it called, this little external port, and it also connects to your audio port as well, your audio jack, and you can get 2 back buttons without needing to buy a professional controller. It's a lot cheaper, and you can map it a certain way so that way you can have what's called, you can have that functionality of an extra back button and whatnot. It's so much better, and you get a physical click too. So, but with that being said, you know, like I said, subscribers and all that, but also do keep a lookout for a new video this week. I don't know what it's going to be on yet, because I just kind of hop on here and I kind of live in the moment when I do my YouTube videos. You'll notice that, especially with my older videos, I don't edit stuff. There's no intro, there's no nothing. I just straight up, like, you know, like, hey guys, you know, here's this new video here on my YouTube channel, or live stream, as the case is often. You know, I try to keep it real. I try to do no edits, you know, because I could edit, but I don't need that, you know, fancy screen at the beginning of my YouTube channel every single time you see a video. I find that takes away from the video. Plus, people are going to just skip it anyways, and it leaves people to believe that something's edited, you know, been edited. And I don't like that, you know. I like to do things all natural, 1 and done takes, or 1 and 2 takes. You know, sometimes if there's a mistake that I definitely can't have on YouTube, I will go back, redo the video, keep it simple. And that's what I love about on-air stuff, is that, you know, I can sit here and ramble for hours, which I have done. I've rambled for about 2 hours now, and notice that I've talked about a wide variety of subjects, from religion, technology, computer parts, that, you know, in terms of finances, like, you know, what's the best ones to buy. We've talked about a lot of stuff. So, you know, naturally, there's only one more thing to talk about, and that is, of course, video games. Like, video games in whole. So, obviously, if you are a PlayStation Plus member, you are getting this thing called Call of Duty 2 Modern Warfare Campaign Remastered. I do suggest you check that out, because if it's as half as good as the first game, it's going to be epic. There are 3 games in that title series. The original Modern Warfare series had 3, and in the third one, unfortunately, someone dies. Now, I can't tell you if that's Captain Price or if that's Soap, whoever. What I can tell you is that it is a good game. Now, another good game is Call of Duty Ghost, but that's an acquired taste. You know, you do you. If you want to see what's in store for the video game, I did a whole walkthrough, full 6-hour live stream, Call of Duty Ghost. Feel free to check it out, by the way. But it's actually really worth it. Another video game I am going to be trying to live stream, or no, I'm going to do a video on, is Batman Return to Arkham. And what I'm going to be trying to do is, if I can, I'm going to try and find a way to organize all my videos on my channel into little folders. You know, so I can be like, okay, so here's the Batman folder, here's Call of Duty folder, here's, you know, this folder, that folder, so on and so forth. And, you know, I'm going to be trying to do that. But at the same time, if I don't have enough time in the day, I do apologize. You know, because granted, I know I don't have a lot of subscribers, but, you know, it ain't about that, is it? It's about showing you guys who I am, showing you guys what I love to do, and hopefully we can find some common ground. You know, maybe not, maybe so. I mean, it's either way. You know, you believe what you believe, and, you know, and the best part about online is that you can contradict my view. You can point out flaws in it, and then I can either find a way to re-back up my theories, or come up with a new hypothesis, you know, come up with a new way of thinking. See, that's what I love about human interaction, is it's always constantly evolving, it's changing. You question your mentality. Or at least we used to. Most people don't know more, but that's what I like about the human brain. Questioning mentality. So basically, another game we will be touching up on is that, obviously, Modern Warfare 2. But, you know, honestly, if I'm being honest, there's this other game that I really loved. I started playing. It's Call of Duty 3. Now, Call of Duty 3, this was the original one. This was back on the original Xbox. Let me tell you something. This is not for the faint of heart. You're going to hear a lot of booms, a lot of explosions. It doesn't have so much the shock factor that The Last of Us does, but it comes pretty close. Like when you're playing in story mode, first thing that you come into, you shoot helmets off of little poles, you throw smoke grenades and frag grenades into a barn, and then you're in this little transport truck. You're trying to push the Germans out. Alright, so naturally, you know, it's a World War II game. And another game I do recommend, I just remember this one, is called Call of Duty Finest Hour. Now, unfortunately, I do have to say this, you're not going to be able to get it on Xbox One. I know, I tried myself. I do hope that Xbox does release it. They do need to hurry up and release it so I can play it. It was a good game. It had 3 campaigns built into one disc. You can't beat that, I'm just saying. But either way, in Call of Duty 3, you're playing through, right? And next thing you know, you get to the point where you're in the truck, you're driving, and then next thing that happens is that someone gets blown up, car, or actually the truck gets turned over, right? And you get put into combat almost right away. It's a lot better, if I'm being honest. I like it, you know? I like it like that. It's more realistic as to how, I would assume anyways, how war would be. So, now that, you know, I've talked over what I wanted to be my time limit, I will say thank you guys so much for watching, and, you know, do come back for more videos. I will be posting more videos. In fact, I do get off at 4 tomorrow, so do keep out for that. Like I said, just try to bring more subscribers to the channel, more people to watch. You know, the more people, the better. And I do hope you guys do enjoy these videos as I do, like as much as I do making them, because, you know, when I make them with my heart and soul. I don't try to, you know, I don't try to sit here and I don't make them for the money. That's not why I make them. Like, money's a good incentive to, you know, get subscribers, but it's not why I started this channel. When I started this channel, I was just a little kid, about 14, 15 years old, who was making tribute things for his bands, like Black Veil Brides, Motionless in White, and look at it now, you know. Granted, it hasn't grown too much, but that's mostly on me. I haven't been posting a lot, you know, and so I'm going to be trying to do more of that. So, with that being said, hope to catch you guys in the next one, and I do hope you guys have a wonderful night and all that. Bye.